What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. So we're going to go over the weekly Forex outlook and reviews for next week, the start of the new month, June the 1st. So what a great way to kick off the month. So let's take a look at the pairs we're going to be looking at today. We're going to take a look at the dollar index, Aussie dollar, Euro CAD, CAD Swiss franc, USD CAD, pound yen, gold, pound Aussie dollar, Euro New Zealand dollar, USD Swiss franc, USD JPY, pound CAD, New Zealand JPY, pound USD, and New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. Now remember, all the analysis I'm giving you today is of my own opinion, so this is not financial advice. Please do not take these as signals and put a whole mortgage on any of what I'm telling you now. Make sure you're using your strategy to your advantage, and always remember risk before reward. The analysis we're doing is all technical based, so I'm just looking at the structure of the market, how it is now, and then we'll start to adapt and determine the strength of the market next week when the market's open and we start to get true directional bias. So the first pair that we'll take a look at is on the dollar index. Now, we saw from Tuesday last week, the market, should I say Tuesday this week, the dollar started to weaken and really showed strong signs of that depletion. Now, what we can see here is the market created a structural level, and that level was attempted to be broken, but never maintained that level or that break, and we had an immediate break back into structure with a beautiful retest and a continuation to the downside. Now, as I said, this is technical analysis, so I'm not taking any fundamentals into account when I'm doing this. What I'm going to be looking for next week for a continuation sell-buy structure. Preferably, I want to see the market come back to some of these key levels for a retest before a continuation. The reason for this is because when I take a trade, I want to make sure that my stop loss is in a safe place so that if the market comes back to test some of these levels, what I'm thinking about at this stage is that these levels should be holding in terms of a double top, lower high structure before we have a continuation of this structure, which is a downtrend, which is moving to the downside. So let's see what happens moving forward next week. It is really overextended, so we could have a reversal. Again, from a technical perspective, all I'm going to be looking for patiently is continued sells. We don't necessarily need to come back to this structural high for a double top. We could pull in some lower highs on this structure and then look for some continuations back to the downside if given the opportunity. I'll analyze this market over the next 24 to 48 hours when the market opens, and if we get that evidence of those lower highs, double tops, then we'll look for the continuation sells. If the market fails to start breaking some of these lows, then we can look for those reversals. But for now, as I always say, and as you all know, trade with the trend is your friend, and you know what, if the market is going down, just look for those sells until it tells you otherwise. The next pair that we'll take a look at is Aussie dollar USD. So now we'll start marking up some target areas if we're looking for trading opportunities. Now, if we're looking for continued weakness on the dollar, we should suspect that the market will continue up on Aussie dollar. But as I said, I'm looking at this from a technical perspective. I can see that the structure of the market is up. We can see that we're trading above these levels, this trend line, and price at the moment now is not breaking above. So what I'm going to start to anticipate is a potential reversal unless we start to break above these structures and we start to clear some of these highs. Then for now, we're going to have to either look at this market structure as moving sideways, as you can clearly see, failing to break above, and then the potential of this overextended market to reverse for potential double tops, lower highs, and continuations. So it is bull bias at the moment. Let's keep that in mind. If it breaks, allow the market to leave the structure for a period. Don't get caught out in breakouts and break-back-ins. Allow for the market to leave. Let it come back when it wants, and then you can look for those continuations. For now, I personally would say, let's see how we respect this level. If we do and we start to see structure violating this trend line, which it hasn't done for a long time, then I'll definitely be looking for some of these double tops and for these lower highs for continuations to the downside or potential reversals as opposed to continuations. Be careful, a lot of markets are extended, which doesn't mean it can't continue to go up, but it does mean that there are higher probable chances of the market reversing. So for now, this is how I'm looking at Aussie dollar USD. If I'm taking any sell opportunities, given the opportunity, my first target areas are going to be areas around here where the market has made higher lows before. And if we start to break some of these structure levels, then we can start looking at some of these lows here. I mean, it is a little way off. So let's just see what happens. But for now, let's be patient. In terms of the structure breaking this high, if it does, then you could be targeting some of these levels to the left. I don't like to scroll left as most people do, because there's just too much data, and before you know it, you're just going to find levels everywhere. So personally, that's the reason why I go for a set target of 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 risk reward ratio, mainly 1 to 3, because I just want to make sure that I'm managing risk before reward, and when the rewards come, they're going to come. But this is how I'm marking up Aussie dollar USD for now. The next pair that we'll take a look at is Euro USD. Again, really extended market, but in layman's terms, let's just keep it real. The market structure is up. We're looking for a pullback on this structure to see if price can find that retest level, and I'll be looking at some of these structural higher highs or previous structural higher highs to look for those opportunities. If the market is going to continue, especially with this euro strength to the upside, then I'll be looking for some pullbacks to these levels. Now, if you've not seen my video that I've posted on Instagram, take a look at it. Wait for the highest probable chances for these continuations once the candles give you that indication. You're looking for the market to come back to these levels with strong bearish pressure, and then you're looking for those depletions. So just be mindful of this. This is how the structure moves. We have 3 phases. We have a push phase, exhaustion phase, and we have markets that just move sideways. Once you identify the markets in a push phase, then what you're waiting for is for that exhaustion period. Wait for the market to come back to some key levels. Again, this is not a signal, this is just my analysis, pre-market analysis for at least 24 to 48 hours when the market opens from Sunday going forward into Monday evening. So this is my analysis on Euro USD. The next pair that we'll take a look at is USD CAD. So let's identify some key levels in this market. We can clearly see that the structure of this market has been failing to break above this area for a very long period of time. If we keep in it 100, we can see that the market hasn't really broken it. It's attempted to break this structure and failed, which simply means that if the market is failing to break above, there is some sort of bearish pressure that is present in this market. But if we also mark the structural low, we can also see that there is bullish pressure in this market. And if we just keep it real, we can see that the market is in a range. We did mention this, I believe, last week on a few other pairs as well. And what we're really looking for is a change in structure, which means a true directional bias. We're looking for the market either to create higher highs, higher lows for an uptrend, or we're looking for the market to break some of these structural lows to look for those lower lows, lower highs for a downtrend. At the moment, this is not a confirmed break of this structure. So in any instance, the best thing to do is allow for the market to leave, come back, retest, and then look for those continuations, and vice versa. Wait for the market to break these structural lows, come back for a retest, and continue. Now, I know this is a bit far-fetched, and you might be like, well, you're just opening up your options. Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. I prefer to trade in market structures that are trending up or trending down, and just look for the market to break the highs or the lows and look for those retests and continuations. There's no point me sitting in here looking for sells and buys when I know that neither buyers or sellers have taken this market over. So for now, this is my analysis on Euro CAD. The next pair we'll take a look at is CAD Swiss franc. So a very interesting pair here. We can see that the market structure is clearly to the upside. Now, as you notice, the market hasn't broken this trend line for a very long period of time. Now, I call it a trend line. That's what most people know it as, and we'll just keep it as that. Price has been trading above this level for a long time. Now, I'm not looking for buys at this level because I'll tell you what I've identified. The market makes higher highs and higher lows. Once the market breaks a structure and retests a structure, we usually look for these continuations. When the market creates a higher low, we usually look for a retest and a continuation. With the market failing to create that double bottom or that higher high, what I'm now seeing in the structure, with the structure of this market, is the structure creating a lower low, which is a break of these previous structures, and now a pullback lower high for continuation down. So what does that mean for my bias? Well, to be honest with you, it looks more like a reversal as opposed to continuation higher low. So I'll mark the charts like this, which is where price was trading above for a long period of time. We can see that the market was not able to break above these highs for quite some time, and then we've had these violation of these previous structural higher lows. Now what I'm going to be looking for in this market? Well, if the market comes back to some of these structural higher lows previously that have been created, then what I'm going to be looking for is a continuation to the downside to look for some of these sells. If the market starts to break and violate these structures, I'm not going to be impulsively looking for buys. I will wait patiently to see how the market reacts at some of these key levels. And obviously, if we start to break them, then we'll have to reanalyze the markets and see what's happening in terms of the currency strength with CAD and also Swiss franc. So for now, my first analysis on this pair, this is where I'll be setting the alerts, is at this previous lower high after the break of these structural higher lows, and then I'll be looking for the continuation to the downside. So if we manage to get back here, my target levels that I'll be looking for is clearly going to be the one that's created, which is the lower low, making sure that I can get a break-even trade or at least manage my risk before price gets back to some of these levels. And if we start smashing some of these structural lows, then I'll be looking in and around these levels here for second targets, or at least to extend my risk to reward and try to maximize as much as I possibly can from this structure. The next pair that we'll take a look at is USD CAD. Now we can clearly see that the US dollar was pretty weak last week, and we now are sitting in a consolidation phase. Now, usually a consolidation at the end of a downtrend will indicate an accumulation phase, not really using Forex too tough, but just simply means that we should suspect the market will now start to reverse or potentially reverse sooner rather than later back to the upside. Now, with the dollar index, it is a bit indecisive whether we're going to continue with that weakness or we are going to enter a phase of a reversal, which is a reflection of what we're seeing on USD CAD now. But let me just keep it really simple. There's three structures: a structure up, structure down, and there's a sideways moving market. If the market is moving sideways, just wait patiently for that true directional bias. Again, look for those breaks, those retests of those previous structures or consolidations, and then look for the continuations. But we're now starting to build a picture here with the dollar weakness, probably a depletion of that weakness for a reversal. Again, too early to determine, guys, but this is technical analysis and this is what we do. We just keep it simple and we wait for a true directional bias. So let's see what happens with USD CAD. Now the next pair we'll take a look at is pound yen. With this structure, we can clearly see that the market is moving to the upside. We are putting in higher highs and higher lows, and as you can clearly see, we haven't broken this structure for a very long period of time. What we can see on this market structure is wick areas to the left where price is reacting to now. Now remember, it's not a single line. It's an area on the market where price is reacting to the most. And as you can see, when price came and created a level here, it left it for a hot minute, came back, reacted to this level, and we had a fall off. Now we can see the price coming back into this structure, and we have strong bullish pressure into this key level with strong bearish depletion. Now that does not mean we're going to be entering a reversal phase. Neither does this mean that this is the supply zone. What we need to see is we need to see the market shift. Allow for the market to give you that directional bias, which is sell bias, added confluence of sell pressure. Then look for the market to attempt to come back and fail to do so. And once you get that evidence, then you can look for that trend reversal. The truth is, if the market's going to go down, it's going to go down. If the market's going to go up, it's going to go up. You do not need to be first to sell this structure. Allow for the structure to change and give you that bearish sentiment. Then look for the bulls to step back in and attempt to push up and fail. And then you can look for that continuation. However, if the market doesn't respect this key level, then what we're going to be looking for is just a clean break of this structure, then a retest, higher low, continuation up. Pretty simple analysis. But for now, we're seeing price struggling. So let's see what happens next week. With this overextended market, I'll be looking for sells more than I would be buys if we do not break this strong level that we see here. Next pair we'll take a look at is gold. Now we can see that the structure of this market was down for quite some time. We were putting in lower lows and lower highs, and as you can see now at the last lower low, we failed to respect the previous lower high and we've broken above it. With that break above that structure, we had a beautiful retest and we've had this continuation up. So what I'll be looking for next week is to see how price comes back down to some of these previous higher high levels, see if we get a retest of some of these structures and get these continuations to the upside. Now, I'm not opposed to allowing the market to break the structure to come back down to the major structural higher low for a double bottom. So I'll definitely be looking out for that. And if the market is to continue to push to the upside, then what I'll be looking for is, because the market's respecting this level, if we break above it, then I'll be looking for the market to come back to some of these structural highs over here to the left for some first targets. And then if we continue to break these structures, I'll be looking at some of these highs for second targets for gold next week. Now, do I know that gold's going to go up? Nope. But can I see that the structure is changing for a potential reversal trend to the upside? Absolutely. And right now, trying to put in this level for a second target is causing me problems. Let's get this right. There we have it. So this is how I'll be looking at the structure. Now, the market is not ready to be sold yet. We do see that the market is respecting this level. But understand one thing. If the market is making a pullback, then technically we shouldn't really be seeing too many higher highs or higher lows or higher highs being put into the market. Trends up create these structures. So for now, we need to keep it safe and trade with the trend. And if the market is going to continue up, this is where I'm going to be looking for my retest of this previous structure, which is the higher high, or this previous structure as a double bottom, which is the higher low. And then we'll see how the market rides to the upside. Let's remove this as a level in the market, as a brick wall, and let's pop in a target area, because we're not going to be buying into this level now. We don't have enough range. So what we could be looking for, let's take some of these levels here to allow price to exhaust, and then we can come back to these levels for some targets. So this is how I'm looking at gold next week. Let's see what happens. The next pair we'll take a look at is pound Aussie dollar. Clearly the market structure is to the downside. We have entered a consolidation phase where neither the bulls or the bears have taken control of the market and given a true directional bias. Off of the back of a downtrend, we can look at this as accumulation phase, which simply means we could be entering a reversal. But what we're going to be waiting for patiently is for the market to give us a true directional bias, giving us a break of this structure and then a retest continuation, or a break of this structure and a retest and continuation. Again, I don't play with sideways moving markets when they don't look clean. I'm waiting for clean directional bias, either to the upside or to the downside. So Euro New Zealand dollar, we can clearly see the latter part of last week, Euro strength stepping into the markets. We had a real strong weakness with the Euro, lots of bearish pressure, putting in some lower lows and lower highs. You can see the market made a lower low, attempted to break the structure and failed. And now we're starting to pop above previous structural highs, indicating that bullish pressure. So what I'm going to be looking for next week? Well, first and foremost, Euro New Zealand dollar, I do not like at all. It doesn't really put in the best of structures, but you know what? For those that trade it, here it is. I'll be looking to see how the market can pull back to some of these structures and see if we have some continuations to the upside. That's as simple as it's going to be. I like the higher low where price has attempted to push down with bearish pressure, failed for about 12 hours, put in that higher low for us, retest of a previous structure, and then we've had this strong rally up. If the market wants to come back here, I'll be happy to look for some double bottoms. And if it doesn't and it continues up, then I'll just be waiting for new form structure to develop. And once we get that new form structure, then I could be looking for possible trading opportunities. That structure would look something like this, which will be a break of its own high and then a retest of its own structure. Simple break and retest strategy. And this is what I really do, guys. Wait for the price to break structure, come back, retest, and look for the continuations. So this is my bias on Euro New Zealand dollar. If you're asking me for targets, good luck. I really don't know what we're looking for here, but I'll stick to my theory of 1 to 2, 1 to 3 risk reward ratio, mainly 1 to 3 risk reward ratio, and we'll manage risk. If the targets get hit, then they get hit. This was actually a phenomenal trading opportunity, to be honest with you. I was monitoring this one last week, but there you go. The next pair that we'll take a look at is USD Swiss franc. So let's take a look at what's happening. The market has created a structural high here where it was unable to break for a very long period of time. Every time price come back to this level, you can see we never broke above. We had strong bearish pressure that was immediately pushed into the market as soon as price tapped into these levels. We did make a higher low here when we made a structural level higher low, and then look at this, we've had this violation. Now the market sentiment looks to me like it's bearish, indicating potential dollar weakness, Swiss franc strength. We will have to see how the market moves forward next week, but at the moment, as the structure is sell bias, we're going to be looking for price to pull back to 50% of some of these levels. I don't want to take this as a retest, to be honest with you, because once price gets back to this level, this is the range that I'm going to be working with, and it's not really worth my while looking for sells in this range, especially in the higher time frame analysis. So what I'd want to do is increase my range back down to some of these structure leveled lows, look for a 50% retracement of this actual push phase market structure here, which is this, and then look for those lower highs to be put into the market for a retest. For those that have been following my content for a while, I always say anytime the market pushes as it has done with strong bearish or bullish pressure and has not exhausted for a period of time, allow for the market to exhaust before that continuation. The next pair that we'll take a look at is USD JPY. Now we have been trapped in a range for a very long period of time. As I've just mentioned, off the back of an uptrend or a downtrend, we have a phase called an accumulation or distribution phase. And off the back of this uptrend, you can see that we've entered a distribution phase. More than likely, you're looking to see the market end its bullish trend and then enter those reversals. What you'll find on UJ happens a lot is that the market will whip you out to the upside if you're looking for sells, and then you'll see the market start to plummet down. And also you will find that the market will trap sellers in a breakout, and then you'll see the market come back into structure. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when we have a breakout and a break back into structure, this to me is classed as an indecision. I don't care what kind of manipulations happened around this time. I just see this as an indecision where price still has not determined its true directional bias. So for that reason, what I'll be looking for is to see how the market gets out of this range again. Are we going to continue with this bullish pressure to the upside and have this break retest continuation? Or are we going to end up retesting some of these levels, see the market push to the downside, and then have some of these retest continuations? I don't have the answer for you, but what I do know is I'll be waiting patiently for the market to give me a true directional bias before I decide to look for any trading opportunities on USD JPY. The next pair that we'll take a look at is pound CAD. Now, we've entered a slight consolidation phase. First, we were stuck in this one. We did have a break of this structure and some subliminal retests here, which you could scale down to your lower time frames and look for those trading opportunities. But now, once the price put in this lower low, we can see that we've pulled back to make this lower high. This is a potential retest of this consolidation. If you were looking for them, to be honest with you, you probably would have found yourself in trouble with some of this manipulation here, news, whatever it may be. And then we can see this continued bearish pressure. For continued sells, what I'd want to see the market do next week is break this previous structure to the low, to the left, and then see the market pull back for some lower highs continuations. To be honest with you, the structure is really unclear, and if the market pushes back into consolidation, then I'm just going to see this whole move here as a consolidation phase, and again wait for what I'm looking for. At the moment, the market is bearish consolidation, break lower low, retest the previous structure, bit of news, manipulation, stop pumps, whatever you want to call it, and then now we just don't know what's happening. Let the sentiment show you what's happening. If it's going to continue bearish, look for that bearish pressure. Then you can look for those pullback retests of previous structures, for those continuations to the downside. You know what we're going to be looking for when it comes to buys. We need this high to be violated. There is no point trading in the range. And seeing as this analysis only really stands for about 24 to 48 hours next week, because structures can change, for now I'm only going to be looking for sells on Monday. The next pair that we'll take a look at is New Zealand dollar JPY. You can clearly see that first and foremost that the structure of this market is to the upside. We are putting in higher highs and higher lows. At the moment, the phase of the market is moving sideways. Off of the back of an uptrend, we can call this a distribution phase when either buyers or sellers have taken over the market. For that reason, I will be looking to see if we start to enter an early reversal phase next week, looking for price to break some of these structures for retest, looking for those lower high formations for continuations to the downside. And of course, if this bullish pressure is going to continue, or should we say bullish trend is going to continue to the upside, then we'll be looking for the break of these structures, retest of these structures, and then continuations up. I'm always skeptical looking for continued buys, especially when the market puts in a consolidation phase off of the back of a very overextended uptrend, because I don't want to be caught out in these breakouts of these consolidations, break back ins, or manipulation where I start to look for buys and then the market takes me out. So allow for price to leave these structures for a period of time before looking for those continuations, if that's what you're going to be doing next week. I like the consolidation at the top of this uptrend, and I'd like to see a reversal be put in next week on this pair. The next pair that we'll take a look at is pound USD. Now, what we can see here is quite a bit of pound strength. For quite some time, we had the market pushing to the downside. We have seen the weakness in the dollar. Now we're starting to put in structural lows, higher lows here, breaking previous structural highs, and then higher lows again to the upside. What we have to monitor here on this market structure is that we're failing to break above this high, which simply means that at the moment there's a depletion in bullish pressure. Are we going to see the market break this structure? And if so, what am I going to be looking for? Well, you should all know it's pretty simple: a break and retest of this structure before a continuation to the upside. At the moment, this is my major structural higher low. If the market respects this level, starts to push down, the only selling opportunities that I'm going to look for is scaling down to my lower time frames to make sure that I have enough range if I'm selling within this area back down to the key level, or if not, I'll just patiently wait for price to violate these structures for a retest and then a continuation down. But let's keep it real. The market is pushing to the upside. Let's see if we can take out this high here, and if we can, then we'll be looking for those retest continuations to the upside. The next pair that we'll take a look at is New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, and this in fact is our last pair. We can clearly see that the market structure is pushing to the upside. Now notice here, we see the market starting to roll over. It created its higher high, attempted to break this higher high and failed. And now as you can see here, the market has put in a left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and now we have this push to the downside. I don't really trade these patterns, but what I do identify is that the market has broken this previous structural low after the retest of this level. So what I'm going to be looking for, just for a clear directional bias, is just to see if we're going to be entering this reversal phase, allow for the market to leave the structure, come back for some retest at these levels, and then see if we get a really strong momentum shift to the downside. At the moment, we can see the market has recently broken this trend line, which is indicating bearish pressure. And to be honest with you, at least for the next 24 to 48 hours next week, I'll be looking for sells on New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. So that's the analysis for this week, 15 pairs. I hope you did enjoy it. And as I always say, if you did, please smash that like button, subscribe, and until next time, take care.